Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to be talking about the 22-250 Remington. The 22-250, which was kind of a work in progress for a number of years, officially came out in 1965, and it was based off of the parent cartridge, the 250 3000 Savage. So it has a case capacity of 45.6 grains of water, which for a 22 caliber at this time was pretty high. It's still less than what the 220 Swift had at the time, but this was built to be close and be kind of a competitor for that 220 Swift. It's just an awesome little varmint cartridge, and it definitely is a little speed demon. As we can see here, it can shoot bullets clear down around the 40 grain mark, still well over 4,200 feet per second. Now, I'm sure you could get down to a 35 grain bullet, but at that point, you're going to have to slow them down a little bit, more than likely, just so that you're not tumbling those bullets, because going that fast with something that light, it's going to tumble. But then as we get into some of the more popular grain weights, like a 50 grain or even a 52 grain, we're still very high in velocity, looking 3,900, 3,700. And up in the 70 grain range, we're seeing that it's still 3,300 down to even those lighter loads, still over 3,000 feet per second. Now, one of the drawbacks of the 22-250 is these heavy bullets. Now, if you're shooting something like this bullet we see here, super low BC 70 grain bullets that are kind of that old cup and core style, it'll stabilize them just fine. But if you want to shoot these newer high BC bullets like the ELDMs or even some of the Burgers and those high BC bullets, it's really going to struggle with those, because if we come back here, take a look, its SAMI twist rate is a 1 turn and 14 inches. And if we want something like those ELDMs, you're going to need a 1 and 8, 1 and 7 inch twist. So realistically though, for a 22-250, if you want to shoot those high BC bullets, you're going to have to get a faster twist rate barrel. So let's take a look here at the ballistics of the 22-250. Now, this was just a load that Hornady had already available in their ballistic calculator, and that is Hornady's 50 grain VMAX Superformance load for the 22-250. Muzzle velocity, we have 4,000 feet per second with 1,776 foot-pounds of energy. It's a 22 caliber. It's not going to have a lot of energy. And then we get out to 200, it's still 3,293. And then there's energy with velocity at 500, 2,415 with 644 foot-pounds of energy. At 200 yards, we're looking at about 1.5 inches, 1.6 inches of drop. And then at 500, almost 27 inches of drop. So pretty decent ballistics for a little 50 grain bullet that the BC is not going to be great. And then the 220 Swift is something that gets compared to the 22-250 quite often. Again, this is just data that Hornady had available on their factory ammo. You can push the 220 Swift definitely a lot faster and harder than this loading does, but that's just what Hornady had available, so we'll use it. It has a muzzle velocity of 3,680 feet per second with an initial energy of 1,654 foot-pounds. So it's less than the 22-250. It can do more, but again, that's what we have. At 200 yards, 3,052, and 500, 2,257 feet per second. And then drop is very similar. At 200 yards, they're both 1.6 inches. And then at 500, there's quite a big discrepancy there. And that just comes down to that initial velocity that we started off with. So if you're going to hand load, The 220 Swift is definitely going to be a lot better. The 22-250 is going to be pretty similar to what we see here. And so the 22-250 and 220 Swift are some older cartridges, but now we have the new 22 Creedmoor. The 22 Creedmoor shoots an 80 grain ELDX in the Precision Hunter ammo line. Muzzle velocity 3,285 feet per second, so significantly slower than both of these cartridges. At 200 yards, it's 2,973 feet per second, and 500, 2,544 feet per second. So significantly less velocity than both the 22-250 and the 220 Swift. But energy, it's going to have more energy throughout just because it's pushing a bigger pill. That's given. But the thing that I would like to draw the attention to is the drop here. At 200 yards, both the 220 Swift and the 22-250 are flatter than a 22 Creedmoor. As you get out to 500 yards, they're still flatter than a 22 Creedmoor. So if you're going to want to get the best out of a 22 Creedmoor, you're going to be shooting quite a bit further than you would with the 22-250 or 220 Swift. Now, I will say, though, the one thing not on this chart is going to be the wind drift. If you're shooting the 22-250 or 220 Swift with these light bullets way out at ranges that you'd shoot the 22 Creedmoor, the wind drift off of these two bullets here and out of these two cartridges is going to be probably double, if not triple, than the 22 Creedmoor. It's just that light bullet, super low BC. It's not going to fight the wind very much. So if you're wanting to fight the wind, 22 Creedmoor will do it for you, especially getting out west. If you're looking at having to shoot coyotes or prairie dogs out past 500 yards, even 200 yards, the 22 Creedmoor is going to be a great option. But the 22-250 still holds its own. Still holds its own against the 220 Swift and even the 22 Creedmoor. Now, again, the drawbacks of the 22-250. So overall, I would say the 22-250 is an awesome option for shooting coyotes, if not one of the best options. It has super flat trajectories, it carries good energy, and honestly, it is a laser. It won't fight the wind as well, but if you're shooting within 300 yards, it shouldn't matter a whole lot.